The cameras were rolling, the lights blazing, and millions of Americans were watching. What began as a typical political exchange suddenly turned into a moment that no one saw coming. In a single televised clash, Representative Jasmine Crockett turned the tables on Donald Trump and Senator JD Vance, delivering a blow so sharp that even their staunchest supporters couldn't disguise the shock. Their reactions, caught in real time, told a story more powerful than words. This wasn't just another debate, it was a reckoning. And in the days that followed, it became clear the nation had witnessed a defining political moment. American politics has long thrived on spectacle, but sometimes the spectacle takes on a life of its own. On that evening, a nationally televised event promised the usual, a heated back and forth between political rivals. But sitting at the center was Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, a rising voice known for her boldness, sharp intellect, and refusal to bow to intimidation. On the opposite side were Donald Trump and JD Vance. Trump, the former president whose shadow looms over the Republican Party, carried his usual bravado, armed with catchphrases meant to stir his base. Vance, once a critic of Trump and now one of his loudest allies, sought to amplify the same talking points, eager to prove his loyalty. The stage was set like a courtroom before judgment. Crockett's reputation for fierce comebacks had already made her a figure to watch, but no one expected what would unfold. With every word, the tension built. The audience leaned closer. Political clashes are often rehearsed performances, but this was raw. And in this arena, Crockett didn't just play defense, she went on the attack. The moment was charged with more than just politics. It was about justice, accountability, and who really held power in the room. The opening exchanges were familiar. Trump threw out accusations meant to dominate the headlines. Vance echoed him, weaving his own narrative of grievance and power. For a time, it looked like a coordinated assault designed to corner Crockett. But then the atmosphere shifted. Crockett listened with a measured calm that unsettled her opponents. She let them speak, allowed the bravado to swell, and then, precisely, when the audience expected her silence, she struck. Her words weren't shouted. They were precise, calculated, and delivered with unshakable conviction. She reminded Trump of his failures, not just in policy, but in moral leadership. She reminded Vance of his hypocrisy, shifting from a critic who once warned of Trump's dangers to a follower seeking approval. Each point landed like a hammer on an anvil, echoing across the stage. The audience reaction became part of the story. Gasps, applause, and stunned silence punctuated the exchange. The camera lingered on Trump's tightening jaw, on Vance's forced smile as he struggled to recover. They had come prepared for a fight, but what they faced was something different. Accountability on live television. Crockett's strength lay not only in exposing their contradictions, but in framing them within the larger injustices of American politics. She spoke of communities left behind, of racial inequities deepened by policies they defended, of the silencing of voices like hers in the halls of power. And in doing so, she shifted the conversation from personal attacks to systemic truth. This was no longer just a debate. It had become a mirror, reflecting back the ugly realities that so many prefer to ignore. And Crockett made sure that neither Trump nor Vance could escape that reflection. Then came the moment that would dominate headlines. Trump attempted to interrupt, dismissing Crockett with his usual bravado. Vance leaned in, eager to pile on. But Crockett didn't falter. Instead, she delivered a single devastating takedown, an unfiltered truth that cut through the noise. She laid bare Trump's legacy of division, the chaos of his leadership, and the damage his movement had inflicted on American democracy. She reminded Vance in front of millions of his own words before he bent the knee, exposing his loyalty as nothing more than ambition dressed as principle. The cameras captured it all, the flicker of anger in Trump's eyes, the tightening of Vance's lips, the silence that hung like a weight across the room. For once, the masters of political theater had lost control of the stage. Crockett stood firm, not with anger but with clarity. She embodied the defiance of every voice silenced, every community marginalized, every injustice overlooked. And in That electrifying climax, the imbalance of power shifted. The humiliation wasn't just personal, it was symbolic. In that moment, the old order cracked. As the cameras faded and the audience dispersed, the clip of Crockett's dismantling spread across the internet like wildfire. It wasn't just shared as another political highlight, it was dissected, celebrated, and remembered as a turning point. Her words traveled far beyond that stage, sparking conversations in living rooms, classrooms, and community gatherings. For some, it was validation, a reminder that power can be challenged, that injustice can be called out, even when it wears the mask of authority. For others, it was a warning. The old strategies of dominance and intimidation were no longer invincible. Trump and Vance's reactions became memes, their discomfort frozen in images replayed millions of times. But Crockett's defiance carried weight beyond the spectacle. She had shown what happens when truth is spoken without fear, when someone refuses to be silenced, even in the face of overwhelming opposition. This story isn't just about politics. It's about courage, accountability, and the power of one voice to shift the narrative. And so the question remains, in a time when so many stay silent, who will dare to speak with the same conviction? Because if history teaches us anything, it is this. The future belongs not to those who shout the loudest, but to those who stand unshaken when the world tries to silence them.